Vanguard portfolio update for February. In this video, I'm going to be going through my Vanguard portfolio, including my Stocks and Shares ISA and my SIPP, which is my private pension. I'm going to show you how much I have, what contributions I've made, and the value of my total investing pot across those two accounts. Before I get onto that, I'm also just going to show you how easy it is to open an account on Vanguard. I get so many questions about this, so I thought I'd just take the first minute to show you how to do that. Then I'm going to come on to my actual portfolio update, and then finally, I'm going to touch on the sort of general economy and maybe what we can expect for stock market returns in 2023. Of course, make sure you subscribe down below and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any videos I upload weekly here on YouTube. But let me get into now the Vanguard's website and show you exactly how to open an account. It's so easy, it takes a couple of minutes. You can see my screen now. This is Vanguard's website, the UK website. There's also an American version, an Australian version, all major countries. I assume it'll work the exact same way, but it really is easy as just coming across to the top here, clicking opening an account. It will then literally tell you exactly what you need. So at the bottom, you can see here it says new to Vanguard, open an account. Click that. You'll then be taken to a screen where it once again says new to Vanguard, start my application, and tells you exactly what you need, your NI number and your bank details. That's literally it to start investing. It takes 10 minutes max. I assume if you live in a different country, Australia might be your TFN number, America might be your social security number, but yeah, you need very little information to get started. Once you click start my application, it'll then pop up what type of account you want to pick. So let's just pick Stocks and Shares ISA for argument's sake. Also here, you can start a transfer if you want to move from another provider to Vanguard. That's what I'd done years and years ago in 2018. I had a Stocks and Shares ISA with a bank, and I then initiated a switch or a transfer to Vanguard. So now my Stocks and Shares ISA is of course with Vanguard and has been now for 4.5 years. Now I'll probably leave it there, but as you can see, this screen once again tells you the things that you need. You then put in some of your basic details, just like you're opening an account or a profile on any sort of website these days. It will then tell you what you want to invest in. The minimum is either a £500 lump sum or a £100 monthly regular investment. I started with £100, so I'd say if you can do that, start with £100 a month into one fund. I wouldn't say what I use yet, you probably already know. We're going to come on to it shortly. You can choose what fund you want to select. You can choose multiple funds, and then you literally are done in a couple of minutes, and then that is it. If you've chosen to do £100 a month, you now have a monthly automatic investment that's going to be invested in the stock market every single month. Easy as you like, takes 10 minutes. If you want more information on the background to the stock market, the background to invest in, learn about compounding, automation, and also the 3-step process that I follow using Vanguard when it comes to all this, check out my ebook, Stop Waiting, Start Investing. It goes through all of that, and if you don't like the book, I'll give you money back. That is how to open up an account. I can make a really in-detailed video if that's helpful. I'm now going to log into my Vanguard account and see how my portfolio is doing. I've not checked this in probably like a few weeks, maybe even a month, so let's see where we're at. So I've just logged in and my portfolio is at nearly £36,000. I think this is the highest my total Vanguard portfolio has ever been. So that is split roughly £31,600 in my Stocks and Shares ISA, and then the remainder £4,400 roughly in my SIPP, my private pension, both with Vanguard. As you can see as well from this screen, 100% of my money is in the FTSE Global All Cap, a global index fund. I'll come on to a bit more of that in a second. And I have £1.03 in cash. Absolutely no idea why. Easy money! But yeah, 100% of my portfolio is in the FTSE Global All Cap. As you can see, the gain I've now made is nearly £3,000. So it's £2,836. So that's nearly a 10% gain. For a bit of context, as I said, I started using this Stocks and Shares ISA in August 2018, around then. So realistically, 4.5 years now nearly, and I've only made a 10% gain. It's not brilliant. But a few things to note here. First of all, of course, it's all long-term investing. Second of all, that number, the actual gain, has been as high as plus 50%, as low as minus 50%. The stock market is very volatile. Even though I've only been investing for, 4.5 years, there's been 2 or 3 pretty large crashes. There was one at the end of 2018. There was one in 2020 with COVID. There's then been a sort of slow decline in 2021 because of inflation and interest rate hikes and rises. I'm still confident over the longer term, my global index funds will average out to be about 7% over the long term. But right now it's looking pretty bleak as I've only got 10% across 4.5 years. But that's the way it goes with investing. Honestly, and I've tweeted about this and posted on Instagram a few times. Follow me over there if you don't already. But the contributions are the most important thing. In the early years, that percentage gain doesn't actually matter. If you have £1,000 invested and you get 100% return, that's only another £1,000. It becomes different when you have £100,000 invested and you get, a 10% return, then that's £10,000. So the most important thing really, in my opinion, is the contributions, getting as much money into the market as you can, and then over the long term, compound interest and time will do the rest in terms of snowballing your portfolio, hopefully to the moon, so you can one day live off of it. So to now show you my recent transactions, very, very routine, bread and butter stuff here. If you watch these videos, you'll probably expect these amounts and dates by now, but I have £650 going to my Stocks and Shares ISA and then £400 going into my SIPP. That happens every month. I've kept those numbers probably the same now for nearly a year. Definitely the Stocks and Shares ISA about a year and a half. I think the SIPP ever since I opened it in about May 2022, so that's coming up to a year. These numbers very rarely change. I generally try and increase them as my salary goes up, but yeah, those are my contributions into my different accounts in the last couple of months. If I now come into my ISA and click on the FTSE Global All Cap, you can see what I've been investing over the last year. So all those green dots are my investments. You can see the market's been pretty choppy, but I've been investing as the market goes up and it goes down, and that's dollar cost averaging, and I do that every month. I use a global fund because I want to be globally diversified, and as you can see, I only have one fund in both my accounts, so it keeps my approach very simple. I cover why I only use one fund in other videos, but I will be making a refresh video on which global fund is best. But yeah, FTSE Global All Cap, 100% is in that, and this is my contributions here, and they'll be the same going forward, but hopefully the chart will be going like that more than like that. So I think that wraps up the Vanguard portfolio update. Let me know how much your portfolio is worth in Vanguard or whatever it is in the comments below. Also let me know what you invest into. I know my approach is very one-dimensional with global index funds because that's my preferred approach to keep my investments hands-off and passive and easy, but I'll be interested to see in what you invest into, so let me know in the comments below. So the final thing I wanted to come into was just sort of a recap of what happened in 2022 and also what we can expect in 2023 in terms of the general economy and what that may do for the stock market. So I've got a little list here I'm going to rattle through, but 2022, COVID generally seemed to come to an end as restrictions were lifted, although China still had it pretty bad. World War III nearly started with Ukraine and Russia, and that war is even still going on now. Elon Musk bought Twitter, then he didn't, then he did again, and now he owns and is running Twitter. There was the very iconic slap of Will Smith onto Chris Rock. Great connection there. When bringing it back to obviously money related, there was fears of recession loomed large across 2022. Technically, there was a recession, but then the US changed the definition of a recession, so there wasn't. But ultimately, if you're actually living in the real world, everything's been going up in price. Inflation, for example, in the UK peaked at 11.1%. Inflation also peaked at over 9% in the US. Other developed economies like Australia and New Zealand had record modern inflation rates. Interest rates were then obviously jacked up to try and counter this. So in the UK, they were nearly 0% at the start of 2022. By the end, they were 3.5%. And similar in, once again, other developed countries where interest rates just kept getting higher and higher. Unfortunately, our stock market portfolios kept going lower and lower because of it. Literally all major indices were down. I think the S&P was down about 20% on the year. The NASDAQ was down about 33% on the year. Bitcoin was down 64% of the year, and that is actually good relative to other cryptocurrencies, which shows you how badly cryptos got pummeled. And in crypto, there was loads of scandals with FTX, Celsius, loads of companies going bankrupt. It was a crazy year for crypto, but that seems to be like every year these days. So what can we expect in 2023? I expect interest rates are going to keep going up. In fact, Australia actually increased their interest rates recently, and I think the UK did or is as well. So interest rates are going to keep going up to try and cool down inflation. I think ultimately though, this will have a sort of negligible impact on the stock market. Interest rates generally are a key determinant in stock market performance because as interest rates go up, it makes borrowing more expensive for companies. If companies can't borrow, there's less investment. They might lay people off, which we've seen at all the big tech companies, and it's sort of like a vicious cycle. But because inflation's been so high, if the interest rate increases to reduce inflation, that could maybe almost counter itself when it actually comes to stock market performance. But it's worth saying there's always a difference between Wall Street and Main Street. Even if on Main Street we have cost of living crisis, record interest rates in years, record inflation in modern times, and all this stuff going on with wars and COVID, Wall Street or the actual stock market doesn't always necessarily reflect what's going on in the real world. Whilst I'm saying there's a negligible impact maybe overall on performance in 2023, it's hard to know what's actually going to happen in reality. The most important thing, as I mentioned earlier on, is just to carry on contributing as much as you can afford to as the up and downs of the stock market naturally occur, and then let time and compound interest do the rest. I'll wrap that video up here. So we've covered how to open up a Vanguard account, my own portfolio, and also a little sort of recap of 2022 and what we can maybe expect in 2023. Let me know what you think 2023 might bring. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.